Now, I'll just start straight away into my first slide, if I can. There we go. Get shown up here. First of all, I'm a freelance historian in Limerick, and I work with a lot of organisations and groups to help them put on events, not just during Heritage Week, but throughout the year, and on a huge variety of events as well. So I'm going to be talking mostly on tours, conferences and exhibitions today, and the tips that I have found helpful along the way for myself. Sometimes those have been tips that I have fallen into after stumbling through them the first few times. So when we start off with tours, if you're planning a tour, one of my major tips that I can give you is to buy a portable microphone. You can get them cheap enough on the internet for less than €50. But if you're taking a tour group along a roadside, you'll have traffic noise. If it's a large enough crowd, people in the back can't hear you, depending on the age group as well, if there's any, or not even the age group, if there's any hearing difficulties. Even the weather can affect whether somebody can hear you or not. So a portable mic is a very valuable tool that you can bring along with you when you're giving tours. There's plenty of them out there. The handiest one, if you're going on mixed terrain, is one that you can wear over your head and just hang it off your chest. You can get them for under €50. And then along with that is to bring props with you. Because a lot of times when you're giving a tour of a place or of a specific kind of thing, if you're giving a nature tour and you're trying to give a tour about wildlife, but the wildlife doesn't want to come out and show its face. So you need to, if you're by a particular area, show what could be there just in case they don't want to come out to see you. And same with a history tour, show what was there at one point, or bring a tangible object as well. It really makes the audience interact with you while you're taking part in that. And that's the same when you're bringing these. If you're bringing a photograph or an image, bring it. If you're depending on your budget, laminate it or put it into a simple plastic pocket sheet. Because again, depending on the weather, it's very helpful and even versatile for handing around. Another tip that I would give just for your audience themselves is keep to the times. We all know about Irish times, and people are going to turn up late because that's what Irish people do. So if you have decided that 2:00 is your set-off time, if you have announced that 2:00 is your set-off time, leave it to about 5 past, but don't leave it any longer than that. You might take another 5 minutes to introduce your topic for more wandering strays to come along to the group, but it's only respectful to the people who have actually turned up on time to leave on time. And it also keeps, if during Heritage Week especially, a lot of people are going to attend your event and they're going to want to go to other events. So if you're giving a tour, give a time that tour is going to take, whether that's 45 minutes or an hour or 2 hours, so they know that they can go to another event afterwards, because a lot of people will want to go to other events afterwards. This is Ireland, so prepare for the weather. That picture that I have up there was from an event that I hosted for the Elemental Arts Festival. We were exploring the heart of the city, and what you can't tell from that sea of umbrellas right at the top, I'm standing up there leading this group. But it was important to make sure when you're putting out information about the tour to indicate prepare for the weather. And if you check the weather forecast the day before and it says that it's going to be rainy, or even if it's going to be extremely sunny, send it out again on your social media to say, bring your umbrella, bring your spray your sunscreen on, because people they'll almost think that they can't get involved sometimes if it's raining. But it's Ireland, we're used to bringing umbrellas, so make sure you get them to do that. Health and safety cannot be emphasised enough. If you're giving a tour, especially an outside tour, try and have at least one volunteer who's sole role is health and safety. If you've got a large group and you're going to be going across roads, have that volunteer at the back of the group making sure that everybody gets across safely, that they are in high-vis vest, and even for yourself or whoever's leading the tour, that they're in a noticeable attire as well, so that people know who they're looking for the entire time. I held a few cycle tours around Limerick, and we got the local Gardaí helped us out with that, and had a cycle Garda. So there's a
Sorry, I'm Marie from the Limerick, Dan County Council.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say about the umbrellas as well.
Yeah.
What I find is, I'm not advertising pennies, but pennies sell the umbrellas that are they're
the clear see-through ones.
clear at the top and dark around the bottom, so they help for people to see in the rain when they're when they're walking, or if you're pointing something out.
Yeah, that's a great idea as well. Yeah. The last point on the health and safety is to just bring a first aid kit. You hopefully won't ever need it, but just have it just in case, because you never know what's going to happen, and it's always better to have it, and then you can make people aware of that as well. So I've held a few conferences and talks. These points are going to work for both if you're going to have just an individual speaker, or if you're going to host a few different speakers in a panel. Make sure that the PowerPoints, even if it's just an individual speaker, if they're going to be working with PowerPoints, have them sent early and test them. The amount of times that I've held events and there's something wrong with the PowerPoints. The Beyond the Grave was a conference that I did in partnership with Limerick Museum and Archives and Mary Immaculate College, and we had parallel sessions, and we had one of the speakers didn't send his PowerPoint in and decided to bring his entire giant Mac computer that didn't work with the facilities that were inside in the conference, in the college as well. So luckily it was after lunch, so we worked pretty quickly to try and put it into a slideshow presentation, but that's something that you have to be aware of that will probably happen. On that same point as well, bring a backup laptop. These things happen, the technology oftentimes isn't our friend, and it's better to be doubly prepared than not prepared at all. When you're planning the event as well, try and get your timetable narrowed down as quickly as possible, so that you can let people know what times certain events are on, so that, as I'm speaking to the choir here, because everybody got a timetable of what was going on here, so they knew when they were supposed to be in the places, and whether they could just go to one session or another session. Also if this is the given time between speakers, is more about parallel sessions, if you've got that going on, that if you have questions after the speakers, that it gives people enough time to go to the other session, because people will change. You might try and get them not to, but people are going to change between rooms. So it's trying to have at least amount of disturbance while they're doing that. And on that same point, it's important to have a good chair. If that's for a single speaker or for a group of speakers, having somebody who is in charge of introducing the speakers or the speaker, and also at the end wrapping it up and managing questions. Because a lot of times, if there's somebody who's a speaker on their individual topic, they might, and they're only coming into your local area, they might not know local personalities as well, whereas somebody who knows the area or knows how to deal with questions is able to not cut questions short, but try and get in as many as possible within a short amount of time and wrap up the event in a timely manner as well. One of the most vital things about conferences is talks of any kind is to make sure that your speaker has water. I'm going to take a sip of mine. Because talking is a thirsty job. So it's really important to have water, bring water. It's one of those tips that it seems like common sense, but is often overlooked. Now, if you're going to have an exhibition, some of you will have your own venue, so you will already know your venue, but sometimes if someone's having an exhibition in another space, say inside in a community hall or inside in a church, find out about your venue, find out what their opening times are so that you can put that into your press release as early as possible. If your venue is closed at lunchtime, it's important for people to know that, so then they're not coming back to you going, I tried to go to see your event, but it was closed, or if it's only open on certain days. Having a supply of essential tools. The essential tools are sellotape, blue tack, paper, a biro. The picture there is of an event that I put on a few years ago. It's a photographic exhibition in the City Hall in collaboration with Limerick Museum and Archives. And although we had everything installed and put up and in place, as we were doing the last walk around, we noticed that there was a typo in one of the captions. And at that point, you drag out your handy piece of paper and your sellotape, and you just make a note and stick it over it for the night and get it fixed in the morning. But there's often times when a bit of blue tack or a bit of sellotape goes a long way to help emergency situations to get you through until you can fix it properly. When it comes to exhibitions, depending on whether it's only going to be a one evening event or if it's going to run for a few days, you most likely have a launch for it. And again, it goes back to your talks as well. Knowing who your speakers are going to be is a great advertising point for the exhibition, because some people might come along to just hear the speaker of the exhibition too. And with the launch, think about if you're going to cater for it. And this, again, it comes in tune with your venue, because some venues don't allow alcohol, or they don't allow food of different kinds, or they can only supply catering through a catering company, because like the City Hall can only have catering done by one particular company, whereas other places you can bring in biscuits and soft drinks yourself. So it's important to know these things before the evening, just to prevent yourself from getting caught out. And afterwards, the invigilation is very important. Having somebody responsible for the event after the event takes place. You know, if you've got a group of volunteers, to make sure that they're timetabled and know what the event is about. You know, so like this, if it's a photographic exhibition, that they have had some training about who it was who created the exhibition, so they can pass information on. And that they can also tell you about other events that are going on at the same time. You know, it's a great time having that invigilator to continue information. The main point that I can give is to advertise. You cannot have enough advertisement. There's no point in putting on any event if nobody knows about it and if nobody's going to come. You know, if you're just speaking to the same three people that you're going to speak to, it's not going to work. Catherine gave a lot of really handy tips about advertising. You cannot advertise too much, because when you're coming at advertising, people will get it from different times. Even with social media, if you're advertising on Twitter, advertise 3 or 4 times in a day, because some people it rotates, and some people will only see it at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Some people will only see it at 8 o'clock at night. Go back onto the tips that Catherine gave there about advertising, and traditional methods cannot be overemphasized either. It's important to get to your local library and put that up, because a lot of people who will go to events are also the same people who will use local resources as well, will use the library and the library notice boards, and getting in contact with the libraries themselves as well. Their mailing lists are extremely important. They send out their own mailing lists for events that are going on, and if you ask them nicely, they might send out your information too. Something that's come up recently that you probably have all got emails about at some point is data protection. And at the end of next month, there's a new act in place about data protection. So when you're asking, a lot of people will ask for email addresses and phone numbers from people who attend their events. It's extremely important from now on, because it's, Heritage Week is in August. From I think it's the end of May when this comes into play. You have to make sure that the people know explicitly what you're doing with their information. So if you just want to add them to a mailing list, you need to almost have a tick the box at the end that says that you are allowed to use their email information or their telephone information to add to the mailing list. Is vitally important, because that's going to catch a lot of people out in the coming months, coming years. But there's a lot on data protection and the use of people's email addresses and phone numbers and how we use that. The most important point and the final point is enjoy the events. You're putting them on for other people, but you're also putting them on because you want to put them on. So relax at them. It's going to be panics at stations often, but remember to take your time and breathe and actually enjoy what's going on as well. Thank you.
Oh yeah, any questions for Sharon?
Just one point, please. You mentioned, as a mic said, I've ordered one for myself.
Yeah.
I'm going to say challenge. But a high-vis jacket, essentially.
Yeah, high-vis is very important. Yeah, because it's very important. I know when I'm doing, when I'm coordinating an event, if I don't have a high-vis jacket, I'll often wear like a bright red shirt or something that's very noticeable. So it's a lot easier for anybody who's at the event to be able to say, that person over there in the bright red shirt, just go to that. It's much easier for it to have something that's really eye-catching, so people will know who the person in charge is. Yeah.
So in respect of launching an exhibition, is there an optimum time of day for a launch to take place, what with the traffic and various other things?
Yeah, because most of the time about between 6:30 and 7 o'clock is a good time, because it actually depends on where the launch is. If your launch is in an urban area, that time is pretty good, because you get people who are just leaving work or just about to leave work, and because once they go home, they're not inclined to come back out again. Whereas sometimes in a more rural area, it gives people, if you have it later, if you have it on at 8 o'clock, it gives people time to go home, have their dinner, and to go out and partially socialise too. That's one point that I didn't mention about catering, is to decide how you're going to arrange the catering. Are you going to have that before the speakers or after the speakers? Because it's important to have those plans in place before you start, instead of trying to figure out off the hoof. Because if you have it before the speakers, then people are chatting, you're trying to grab their attention back into what you're doing. But if you have it after the speakers, it's trying to not try and get rid of them, but trying to wind it up afterwards is more difficult. So it depends on what your time frame is on either side as to how you do that.
I say congratulations on your Heritage Hero Awards, by the way. Thank you. I'd like to know what that award was about. Can you tell us something about that?
Well, I can tell you what I know about it. I was nominated for it. Niamh would know a bit more about it than...
Yeah,
Please.
Do you want me to explain? So every year we have a Heritage Awards. There's four categories. 3 are for Heritage Week events, and 1 is for Ireland's Heritage Hero. And Sharon we've been running it for 3 years, and Sharon's been our 3rd Heritage Hero. And it's a national award. It goes to someone who's really gone above and beyond for Ireland's heritage. And so previous winners would have been were both retired people actually who had devoted a long years of their lives to heritage, and Sharon has managed to fit all that into much less time. She runs a blog, a website around Limerick's history. It's called Limerick's Life, and she also does a lot of tours, exhibitions, talks around Limerick and the history of Limerick, really bringing it to life. And so you get nominated for the award. So if anyone in here has someone in mind who's a worthy recipient, make sure to enter that in the Heritage Awards as well. So that's Sharon's background.
Is that for that specific year?
No, it's just an overall award to kind of recognise people in Ireland who are doing a lot for our heritage. So it's not specifically to the work they've done in 1 year.
Could you just explain how to actually nominate people and how to enter into the awards?
Okay, so the awards will be opening just before Heritage Week, and you can go to our website heritageweek.ie to fill in a short nomination form to nominate somebody for the awards, or to enter the event Heritage Week Event Awards as well. And as Elaine mentioned earlier, there's a category for children's events, 1 for heritage communities, which is really about working together with other groups, and 1 for hidden heritage, which is shining a light on heritage that people mightn't be aware of in Ireland. We'd really encourage everybody to enter. There's always a really high standard, but then I know there's going to be a high standard coming out of here today, so don't think your event is too small or too insignificant, because we really like to share the awards out amongst a lot of different types of events, a lot of different sizes of events, so it's well worth entering. And the next 3 speakers are all award winners. Up first is William McElhenney from Donegal, and his event about the River Foyle and salmon fishing around there won the Heritage Communities Award this year. So he's going to tell you a little bit about that.